up, guys? It's Caleb, and I'm here in the garage of Bronco Detours, where he has graciously decided to let us borrow his stock 2.0 rack from his Bronco, and we're going to be dissecting it. Now, this is part of the steering comparison. There's not going to be a lot of comparison here, just showing you why we're even going to be talking about the steering comparison stuff on a Ford Bronco. So let's get started. Now, as a lot of you know, the Bronco steering racks are kind of a hot debated topic for a couple of different reasons. One is like the need for upgrading them, the breaks that happen, tie rods being the most common one. But there's a lot of stuff that happens inside the rack that you might not see as much until you lift your Bronco. Now, a couple things to note, that this steering rack, like I said, is the 2.0. It is completely stock. It has not been upgraded in any way, and it's been run for about, how many miles?
16,000.
It's got about 16,000 miles on a stock Sasquatch 35s, all stock, nothing else done to it. Now, keep in mind this is 16,000 very hard miles. Bronco Detours likes to run his stuff pretty hard. He has broken his CV axle, his intermediate shaft, and one of his tie rods as well. So he wheels it pretty hard. He hits some stuff on the Rubicon. And I noticed when we were on the Rubicon and we were replacing his CV axle and his tie rod, there was a lot of metal shavings coming from the rack when we were cycling it. So I asked him if we could dissect it once he swapped it out. He's swapped it out since for a 3.0 rack that's currently in his Bronco. So before we ship this in for a little bit of a refund on the core charge, we're going to take it apart, we're going to check it out, and we're going to show you guys what the damage is on this rack and why you need to brace your internals. Let's check it out.
Is that the right fittings?
Oh yeah.
Alright, so I got another.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the passenger side housing right here. Now, a common thing to break on these steering racks once you lift it, not necessarily the tire size, but the lift size. If you go too high of a lift, you put an angle on this shaft, and as it's going in and out, it's going in at an angle, and it's rubbing on this cast housing. And eventually, over time, you're going to wear through the housing, and the housing is going to crack. It's cast aluminum. It's not very strong. Both 74 weld and Bronc Buster create a new housing that bolts on right here and caps on, that's made out of a billet material that will encapsulate this much better. It's got a built-in bushing. 74 weld uses an impregnated bronze bushing, and then Bronc Buster uses a special type of like carbon steel. And so both are very good designs, both do the job well. I have Bronc Buster stuff, some friends of mine have 74 weld stuff, both are great companies. And yeah, it'll prevent this from cracking and breaking due to increased lift size. And I'm talking 2 to 3 inches over Sasquatch lift size. And this is a slow break. This is going to happen with time. It's not going to just show up overnight after you lift your Bronco. It could take a few weeks, depending on how you wheel. It could take a few months. It could be a year. Maybe it'll never happen. But odds are it will eventually happen to you. And you do not want to shatter this on the trail. It means a long, long way home. The other side, this is the driver's side, that gets replaced is in here there's a bushing. And that bushing as well, it's the same idea. When your Bronco is lifted, like so, your tie rod angle will increase. And when your tie rod goes in and out, it's going to be putting flex on that bushing. And over time, that bushing will get chewed up. And it will just leave little pieces all over your rack. And once it goes, well, then you're going to have some issues. Another thing that happens is the pressure valve. And this is the most common failure. There's a pressure valve right here. It's keeping pressure on your rack. When you put that angle on your rack and it's coming up and down, you're actually going to blow, actually it's right there, you're going to blow that cap. When that cap blows, your entire rack is done. So when you replace this bushing in here, it limits the flex on the shaft, preventing your valve from getting blown out by overflexing, overstressing it. So I want to go over another quick thing real quick before we take apart the rack, and that is this is an electric servo or electric assist rack. This is not a power steering rack like you typically find on a lot of older vehicles. A lot of people say, oh, you need to replace the power steering fluid or yada yada yada. Some people I've even seen, tell other people in the forums to add hydro assist to help them with their steering. You can't do that on this rack, guys. That's not a possibility. So just bear that in mind when you're on the forums. Not everyone knows what they're talking about. Someone's telling you to put hydro assist on an electric rack. They don't know what they're talking about. Someone tells you to change out the power steering fluid in one of these racks. They don't know what they're talking about. This is an electric assist rack. There is no fluid in this rack other than some grease. So none of that's going to work for you. The only thing you can do on this rack currently available to increase your steering power is upgrade to the 3.0 rack, which we're going to talk about in another video as part of the steering comparison series. And in that rack, you're going to get a slightly better housing, bigger tie rods, bigger diameter, and you're going to get a motor that's about approximately 20%, 30% stronger torque on the motor. You're not going to really notice much of a difference day-to-day driving, but if you put bigger tires on that bad boy, you're going to notice it on the trail. You're going to have a little bit more ease of motion on the tires when you're on the trail and wheeling, similar to like what you get with the hydro assist setup, just not as crazy. Don't do this normally, but we're not reusing this rack. We're shipping it off for a core refund, and they told us we could take it apart. This is not the proper way to dissect your rack if you want to reuse it. Go right here. Oh, we got it. Ignore all the dirt. All right, so we're looking at the rack in here, and you'll see it's got this weird seam on it. So right here, that's metal. See those shavings right? Try and get focus on the camera. That's all metal shavings, and those are really big. Hopefully you're picking that up on camera. And then, see that? That's part of his bushing. That's sitting there. That should not be there. It's not something you want to see floating around in your rack. So right there, it's hard to see because of the light, but that bushing's all chewed to pieces and it's starting to go through his metal. I'll take some pictures as well and post on the forums for you guys. If you want to check it out, Bronco 6G forums, this will be in a post as well. But yeah, that's not good. All right, let's look at the rest of it. All right, so looking here on the rack, it's going to be a little hard to tell. Ignore the dust and dirt because that just came from opening the rack. But you see, oh yeah, that's perfect. You see the little glistening things? That's all metal that's on the pulley. That's not a good thing to have. So all that metal is going to get down in your gears and go back behind there. You don't want that. Now this is your rack. And this is the electric assist that I was talking about. You got this little rubber band kind of thing that's actually pretty darn small. And then there's again a big chunk of bushing that's just sitting in there that we got tore up. But it's on these teeth, these metal teeth, and then this is a plastic pulley right here. And when you turn your steering wheel left and right, it's sending signals to this motor, which is applying, which is turning this band, and this band is turning this pulley, which is helping you pull this screw in and out, helping you steer and giving you power assist. That's how that works. In a nutshell, I'm not an expert. This guy is though. Alright, so looking in there, we also got a large piece of the bushing just kind of hanging out in the pulley that's going in and out with the screw. We're going to try and see if we can pull this pulley off and inspect the rack further back behind and see what kind of damage we have back there. You'll also notice this screw is extremely filthy. I don't know if this is coming up on the camera, but there's just all kinds of grit and gunk all along the entire screw. Pieces of bushing, dirt, dust, sand, metal shavings, it's all on there. This rack was not very healthy. And keep in mind, stock Sasquatch. no mods. Now on the driver's side bushing, it actually doesn't look too bad. Basically, there's some gouging on the plastic bushing in there, but nothing crazy. The teeth are rubbing on it though, so eventually that bushing is going to start to give more, and then it's all going to be gone. Not that the bushing really matters. It's not really a bushing, it's more of a guide. Bushing isn't the proper name for it, but you don't want to pop that sucker out, and as soon as you lift your Bronco and do anything crazy, you're going to pop that out because that bushing isn't going to support the up and down movement. It's going to pop that sucker right out. You lose entire steering ability in your Bronco. So that's why 74 Weld and Bronkbuster, they create a bushing that goes in there and encapsulates this rack, preventing it from flexing up and down for once you lift your Bronco and causing that bushing to pop out. Same thing on this end, except they use an entire housing like we discussed earlier. And you'll see that in a different video coming up. Okay, well, we took the belt off. It's on this plastic pulley. It's a pretty strong plastic. I wasn't too worried about this thing actually. More bushing right there. So you can see all these little bushing pieces all over the place. This is your this is where all your steering goes, right in this little rubber band. If you think about it, it doesn't have a lot of work. It's pretty well spaced out in these pulleys, and it's moving along, and it's fine. People think it's really weak, and it does look pretty weak, but it's not meant to be like pulling on anything. It's just turning like that, and it's pretty thick, and that's where your strength is going to come from. I'm not really worried about that, but I'm curious how long they last. All right, guys. So my SD card just ran out of room on my camera, so I'm switching over to the iPhone, and we'll continue this real quick, but we're almost done. So this is what I was talking about as far as the bearing that's in there, and then you have this thing right here where the pulley sat over it like so. Can't really see much past that. We're not going to take that apart any further. You've got this shaft, input shaft, coming straight from the electric motor. So this is where you're going to get all your torque from the electric motor. And this is just a roller guide right here for your belt. It's a little loose, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's fine. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. The steering rack on this side, and then coming over here like I promised. See if I can get you a better angle. The bushing itself on the driver's side is pretty good, but the teeth, as you can see, are wearing a little bit on it. There's a few chunks down there, but nothing to be concerned about overall on this driver's side. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That's it. This is just one more part of that steering comparison about more like why we're even bringing this topic up, why you need to look at your rack options, why you need to consider different things. Usually I tell people you don't have to do anything with your rack until you lift, put bigger tires, that kind of stuff. But as you can see, stock Sasquatch, if wheeled hard, is going to run into some issues down the road as well. So if you're a hardcore wheeler, just keep that in mind. 16,000 miles on this rack, guys. That's not a lot. Hope this helps you make any decisions you're making. And then stay tuned for a video on a comparison between 74 Weld and Bronkbuster and the Haas 3.0 and a bunch of different other options coming out there for your Bronco. Cool your ash, pack your trash.